Haven. $909.63.
Mm-hmm.
6173.
To invite Alderman Marchand to join you if you wish. If you want to have forum, you can always invite Alderman Marchand.
Alderman Marchand, would you like to join us?
To establish quorum.
If you need me, I would. I'd rather stay up here, but if you need me, I can.
We'll start it off as well. Good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order. City of New Haven meeting agenda, Community Development Committee, Wednesday, August 20th, 2025, 6 p.m. Board of Alders Chamber. Meeting can be viewed on the Board of Alders YouTube, Board of Alders New Haven notice. The Community Development Committee will meet in person at 6 p.m. Wednesday, August 20th, 2025, in the Board of Alders Chamber, 65. New Haven, second floor, to hear and act upon the following. LM-2025-0409, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the Vision 2034 comprehensive plan, the city plan, commission's plan of conservation and development. This item is on file and available for public inspection in the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street. Burt Order, Honorable Carmen Rodriguez, Chair, attest Honorable Michael Swanson, Clerk. If you need an accessibility related accommodation, please contact 203-946-7651 or 203-946-8582 TTY in accordance with the city's new guidelines. Maximum optional. Public may submit comments to public testimony at no time. At this time, I'm going to ask that my colleagues from the right introduce themselves. So we get
Frank Douglas, Ward 2.
Carmen Rodriguez, Ward 6. Thank you all for being here. We also want to acknowledge Alder Marchand from the 25th. Thank you. So, presenters to come forward and give us information this evening. Name and addresses for the record. Thank you. And more than welcome to close to this. Join us. This meeting will begin as a workshop as other colleagues come in. That we.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good evening, Alders. My name is Laura Brown. I'm the Executive Director of the City Plan Department. My address is 262 West Rock.
Good evening, Alders. My name is Esther Rose Milan. I'm the Assistant Director of my address is 32 Broad Street in the Annex.
Hi, my name is Sana.
Evening. My name is Abdul Zach Zachariah. I'm the Mayor and Deputy Director of Zoning. This is 48 Homestead Avenue, West Haven.
Thank you so much. I asked your Deputy Director to be here at the table with us, not because he's part of the presentation, but because I wanted to introduce you all to him. He will play an important role.
Welcome.
Yes, exactly. So we'd like to thank you all for taking time to hear this tonight. This is a big night for the department. There's a culmination of a lot of work over a few years. And this has brought us to Vision 2034, New Haven's comprehensive plan. We just took a moment to introduce ourselves, but I will orient you to this slide presentation that we are going to use to kind of guide your discussion points. And you also have a copy of the plan and binder before you, and we do have other members of the community can use those. So first of all, I would like to thank you all I would like to thank the members of our City Plan Commission, the steering committee of this plan, our community navigators, and the leadership team, all the folks who came out to support this now and over the past 2 years to make this possible. These are our needs for the plan. Our land development just orients us to what we are doing here. The work that we do involves regulation of land, and we believe that we should honor the indigenous people of this land and state that our intention is to uphold our responsibilities according to the example that they set for us. We will go on to slide 3. This is our agenda for tonight. We have about 20 minutes of discussion for you, and then plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. We'll review the planning process that we've been through and walk you through the document and sort of the key points in the document. It is 200 pages, so we are not going to get to everything, but we hope you've read it already. And just for your awareness, the plan has been merged between the development committee and the city plan commission, and we are here tonight seeking your favorable recommendations to move forward to the board of alders. So that is what we're hoping. So looking at the slide, what is the comprehensive plan? So we call this the comprehensive plan. The state of Connecticut calls this the Plan of Conservation and Development. And this is a document that's required by the state of Connecticut to be adopted every 10 years by municipalities to be eligible for certain state funding. So we indeed have an active plan that is our 2025 plan, and we do want to remain eligible for the state this to be adopted by November. The plan that you have before you covers a wide range of topics are required by the state statute. You can see the topics here on the slide. We have cohesive and interdisciplinary vision. So we didn't approach this from kind of a siloed perspective, like we're only writing about housing in this chapter or transportation in this chapter. We let those themes emerge from what we heard from residents in the city. But all of these topics are covered within the plan. We also wanted to know that because this is needs and desires of residents, it's also very much aligned with the priorities that the Board of Alders has set, in particular, supporting good jobs for New Haven residents, housing, environmental justice issues. So you will see those things throughout the chapters of the plan, and I hope you get a chance to review it in the back. So we'll move on to the review and adoption slide. After I mentioned, we've been through this 2-year process, and we'll explain that in more detail in just a moment. We did publish a draft of the plan on June 6th. You may recall that Alder Marshall raised that to you during caucus at that time, and that a draft was available. We are going to walk you through the process of our engagement throughout the plan. We're doing that because we want you to feel confident that what you see here really truly reflects the needs and desires of the city of New Haven residents. It's not something the consultant wrote without that input. It's not something that we wrote. And I want you to feel confident that that's what's. So our goal today is not just about a positive recommendation to move this forward to the alders, but also to discuss with you how we would love to see you participate in the implementation of the plan, which is really the most important next step. How are we going to get this work done? And that will be critical to the success. So starting in June, just to review briefly what happened since we submitted the draft, the City Plan Commission held a public hearing over 2 meetings, and the intention of that was to solicit permanent feedback. As Esther will describe, we've had two feedback, but we want to keep the door for that feedback. We made revisions based on that, and those are summarized in the comments for legislative services. It was the response to comments document that was submitted with the draft plan on July 24th. So the plan has also been referred, because we're a coastal municipality that is required, and to the Regional Planning Commission. And President Walker Myers also referred this again to the City Plan Commission, Transportation, Traffic and Parking, and the Department of Public Works for comment. All of those entities were incorporated to the plan as well, so it won't be the first time we'll see this. Once that happens, the committee sends the plan back to the board of aldermen with recommendations, and we hope the board of aldermen approves the plan. The City Plan Commission is the entity that must actually approve the plan according to state statute. So after the board of aldermen reviews it, it will go back to the City Plan Commission. It will be determination to adopt or not adopt the plan. And of course, we hope after all this work that the City Plan will choose to adopt the plan. So that's a little about the process. I am going to hand it over to Esther Rose Mylan to talk a little bit more about the engagement.
Thank you so much, Laura. So I'm going to take us even further back in time, over 2 years back in time, not just to June, starting on slide 7. So we initiated work on the comprehensive plan over 2 years ago, conducting initial community engagement and convening a steering committee that set principles for the planning process and assisted in developing and selecting a consultant. And we also developed a mission, which I'm going to read. The people of New Haven will use Vision 2034 as a tool to create a promising shared future, focusing on the needs of the whole community and honoring voices and experiences, particularly of those who have been historically undervalued and excluded from facets of community life. The process of developing Vision 2034 will be community-driven, representative, collaborative, and transparent. In the face of upcoming uncertainties, the plan's concrete and actionable goals will serve as benchmarks for addressing systemic inequities and opening greater opportunities for all. So we a very strong values-based mission statement. We also established guiding principles for the plan for equity and resilience. And the picture on the slide from June 2023, just to give you a sense of how much time we've been working on this. Moving on to slide 8, in January of 2024, we held a big project launch at the hall, and hundreds of residents attended, including many folks who are in the room right now. And we got really good feedback from that big launch that we used to design the planning process. And the event also just generated a lot of excitement that we worked really throughout the process. Moving on to slide 9. That winter, so winter 2024, we recruited and hired for our Community Navigator program. This program was inspired by the Food System Policy Division's Community Advisory Board for their Urban Agriculture Master Plan, which compensates residents with leadership in the planning process. So we hired 10 community organizing and grassroots connections across the city to play a leadership role in community engagement, with a focus on engaging residents that are often excluded by traditional civic engagement and meeting people where they are across the city's neighborhoods. The navigator on Vision 2034 and the comprehensive planning process and reached hundreds of residents. I'm going to now turn it over to Sana to talk about the leadership team and the workshops they will run.
Thank you. The leadership team was a group of students hired from the Common Grounds Green Job Corps, and they were paid. Youth leadership team reached out to more than 500 youth around the city. We created workshops for them, like the one in the MS, where the where events across the city where they have been to city. We also with schools and we also did leadership programs and through different media like when doing and then we talk to youth and also adults. And youth leadership team also were part of we were also part of the public workshop and the we were there and we through different there were representatives from different organizations and public were there and activities to share their perspective about the city. And the workshops were all around like in different parts of the city, in different neighborhoods for people to reach out.
Thanks, Donna. For just a second, like, if you want to acknowledge Audra Edwards from Ward 9. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to slide 12. After 4 or 5 months of really frequent community engagement, including the workshops that Sana just spoke about, the community navigator and youth leadership teamwork, tabling at community events, and more, as well as a lot of research and analysis. 6 topical themes emerged from what we were hearing from residents, and working groups were formed for each theme. These groups were called co-creation teams, and they met 3 times. So pictured here on slide 12 is our third public workshop where we sort of set the groundwork for the co-creation team. The teams were open to anyone in the city who wanted to participate, and we also conducted really targeted outreach to a wide range of stakeholders for each topic area. At the first meeting, the co-creation teams reviewed community engagement and research findings. At the second meeting, the teams developed goals for their topic area. And the final meeting, they reviewed the results from our community-wide survey and finalized goals and strategies. So I just mentioned the survey. Moving on to slide 13. Okay, and I just member one of our community navigators has arrived. Yes, thank you. Just name.
First second, Jenny, 81 Patton Road, North Haven.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, we had put together goals for our 6 different topic areas, and then we put those out to the broader public starting in February of this year in a community survey, which we sent out through many platforms, text, internet, paper copies at libraries. And what that led to was over 600 okay? And we were able to use define the goals and also to help with their prioritization. Here, where we are today, slide 14, we have a full Vision 2034 plan. It's hard to capture all of the work that went into the plan. I certainly did not in the last 3 minutes. But I really want to emphasize that the super engaged, inclusive process we went through is part of the positive outcome of Vision 2034. It wasn't just a means to an end. It brought people together to build trust, collaborate, and connect in a way that has lasting impact in the city. And so I could pause now. This is sort of the end of our process session. If the chair would like to take a pause for questions, or I can keep going right into the plan document. Okay, yeah, sounds good. Okay, so we're now going to walk through the document, which you have in your binders, and I'll try to throw out page numbers if you'd like to follow along in the plan. Oh, and also just slide 15 is sort of like a more of a comprehensive overview of the process timeline. If that is like a better visual for you. Okay, so moving to slide 17. This is our table of contents. These are the major sections of the Vision 2034 plan. We have the introduction, New Haven Today, the community's perspective, our topical chapters, our land use vision, and our implementation guide. And we're going to go quickly through all of these sections, to familiarize you with that. So starting with our introduction, that's going to be page 1 in the plan document, and it's slide 18. And the introduction establishes the purpose of the plan, how it will be used, and it reviews the process by which it was developed. And it also talks about alignment with state and regional. Moving on to New Haven Today, which is slide 19 and is page 7 in the plan document. This chapter summarizes the extensive amount of research, data collection, and data analysis that went into the plan. This is not all of the data that we have or all of the data that we analyzed, because that would be a 500-page document in and of itself. So New Haven Today summarizes the really important points and takeaways that support goals in the plan and support the feedback that we hear from residents. Slide 20 is the community's perspective, which documents what we learned from our community. We thought I was going to speak a little bit more about it.
For the community perspective, we were tabling in different activities. We talked to different organizations that were there, represented the organization, and we also talked to the public that were there, and we their ideas in like 2 different activities. Like you see the post-it notes, like they brought their perspective in this post-it notes, art and the map. And some of those ideas were like art walk or sound, and we tabled there and we talked to different people.
There was also a slime table at some of those events, which attracted a lot of families. Great, thanks, Anna. Based chapters. I'm on slide 21. Let me just find my place in my notes. So these 6 chapters are organized the same way that the co-creation teams were organized. Same themes, covering the same content. And each of these chapters can be structured the same way. There's going to be a vision statement, a list of goals, and then for each goal, the strategies that are proposed to reach that goal. And here we have a list of our 6 chapters. I'm going to go through them briefly. And then just a little bit more orientation to the 4 on slide 22. Each chapter, this is very tiny, but you can also see it in the document. Each chapter has some different components. So when you see a little call out box that's spotlight, that is a spotlight of something happening locally that we think is really great, that works really well, that's something that can be used as a model or expanded upon. And when you see a pop-out box study, that is a model or possibly from another municipality somewhere else, usually in the country, that's doing something really cool that has proven to be effective that we think could work potentially for New Haven, and that's often tied directly to one of the strategies. We also have sections for 4 of the chapters that are called Acknowledging the Harms, and those give a little bit of history about how land use decision making has really created harm in the city and perpetuated inequity. That those things are really important to acknowledge. This plan lays out a pathway to address those systemic inequities. And if you pretend like they aren't there, how are you going to address that? And then just 2 other quick things about formatting. You may see the little book icons. The book icon represents a strategy that's related to zoning and zoning reform. That's something we're going to talk about a little bit later. And the little circular arrows are strategies that are related to a strategy somewhere else. Like Laura said earlier, we really took an interdisciplinary approach to this, and many strategies emerged that could fit in multiple chapters. And so we sort of tailor them to the specific chapter that they're in, but then we're showing how they're all interconnected. So that's sort of like what some of the things all of the chapters will have in common. And now I'm going to go through the top of the chapters. So I'm on slide 23, Great Places to Live. This was our theme that addressed housing issues and neighborhoods. And as we expected, affordable housing really, rose up as the #1 concern that residents had. And something else that was interesting was this goal #4, transform empty and rundown properties into affordable housing and other resources. That really resonated with folks who responded to the survey. That was like the highest rated Great Places to Live goal in the survey. And I also just wanted to note here that the goals are not in order of priority. That wouldn't be fair, and who's priority, right? So the goals are in an order basically based on formatting worked out. So just something to be aware of. Those are not ranked; they're just numbered randomly. All right, we'll move on to economic opportunity for all. I'm going through these really fast. Super happy to come back and answer. Economic opportunity for all, economic development, small business, good jobs, and career pathways. And I just wanted to highlight goal #1, connecting new workers to good jobs in the city. #4, really investing in our neighborhood commercial centers. And #6, expanding entrepreneurship and small business opportunities. We've heard a lot about how much New England value small culture of having small businesses in their neighborhoods. Okay, moving on to move together on slide 25. This was our chapter covering mobility and transportation. It built off existing plans like the city's Safe Routes for All plan and the New Haven bus rapid transit study. And this chapter had the most highly rated goal of any goal that went out to the community in the survey. And that was goal 3, make it easier and safer for people to walk, bike, and use mobility devices and public transportation. Just really shows how much residents value being connected in the city, being able to get around the city and access the things they need and make connections with other people. Our next chapter was climate and ecological connections. This chapter covered resilience, sustainability, environment, and of course, addressing what the city will face in terms of climate change over the next 10 years. This team really inspired me with their focus on collaboration and seeing this topic as fundamentally interdisciplinary. There were a lot of young people who participated on this team and really pushed the focus on environmental justice. And I think you can sort of see that in goal 10, supporting agencies, communities, and neighborhoods working together to be more resilient to climate change impact. Okay. Sana is going to talk to us a little bit about the next chapter, which is art and cultural identity.
So this chapter is about arts and politics. As we know, we live in a diverse scene. Opportunities for local artists will show a way of will allow them to express themselves and their culture if they want to, and it will also beautify the city by either drawing murals around the city, and it will also provide opportunities for local high schoolers and youth that are artists in art around the city. And we also want to cover workshops with everyone for youth work was where we had proud and it was like a great opportunity.
Really incredible guitar and vocalist at that workshop. Super fun. I would also just add that the work of that team and in this chapter really builds on the city's cultural equity plan. All right, so we've arrived at our last topical chapter, which is civic experiences. If you're following along, I'm sorry, I said I was going to give page numbers and then I didn't do that. If you're following along in the binder, that's page 161. So this chapter addresses services and facilities provided by the city to residents. And like all the chapters, these goals are very much rooted in our overarching goals of equity and resilience, and are aligned with all management priorities around equitable distribution of city resources and investing in support for youth and families. So those are our topical chapters. I'm going to move now to the next section of the plan, which is the land use vision, which starts on page 179 in the document. This is a really important component of a comprehensive plan. This is one of the required components by the state, which is our future land use map. And the future land use map is not a zoning map. It identifies broad land use categories and a sense of where they would be appropriate, where we see land use falling into those categories around the city. So it's not meant to be like parcel by parcel. It's really like a general broad vision of what are the land use patterns around that we envision in the city 10 years from now. And so there's a lot going on in this map. It may be better to look at it in the binder than this tiny little slide. But I'm just going to sort of walk through some of the like major themes of the map. So some of the focuses on the map include the red areas, which are our neighborhood commercial districts, and which is, there's lots of goals in the topical chapters around investing in those neighborhood commercial districts, making them vibrant, making sure that they provide the resources that residents are looking for in their neighborhoods. Another thing that we've shown here is the proposed bus rapid transit routes, as well as our greenways. So the existing Farmington Canal Greenway and the East Shore Greenway. So connectivity across modes of transportation is an important theme on this map, and connecting neighborhoods to each other. Another thing I want to point out is the lighter turquoise color. That is our coastal mixed land use. And so that in the Longworth area, which we're very familiar with, and for the growth plan. Recently, the Board of Alders approved new zoning for that area. And so the considerations we put into the Longworth area of really balancing resilience and responsible growth are considerations that are very important as well for the Mill River District, which you see here in light turquoise, and LT Grasso Boulevard. And so these are areas with a lot of underutilized land that are vulnerable to climate change impacts, but also have a lot of opportunity and importance. And then I also just wanted to point out the pink areas are special project areas, which were areas of the city that are important opportunities, but will require a lot more community engagement, potentially environmental remediation to determine what the best future land use is for those areas. Laura, did I?
One thing to note is just, if you were to compare this future land use map to previous future land use maps, these plans, what you'll see is that deviates more from what has been kind of the status quo. We are coming out of decades of kind of post-industrial economic change, where our waterfront particularly has been largely industrial. And we are now, thankfully, starting that big mindset shift. We make better use of all of this land in our city. And this is what we are starting to envision. So I think we're in like a generational point in our city's growth and development. And we have the opportunity to implement it in a way that really benefits all of the residents. So that's what I see when I see the future plans, really a fundamental.
Yeah, and I would also just again emphasize, I think the goal of better connecting all places in the city to employment, school, and services and resources. Great. Okay, I'm gonna turn it back over to Laura.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, the most important part of the plan is what do we do with it? Because a plan isn't set in stone. It is intended to be adaptable. We are in really unusual times now, not only because we're envisioning something epic for our city, but because of the very unusual economic circumstances in which we find ourselves and political circumstances in which we find ourselves. And so we will need to be able to be adaptable to changing times. And a good plan can do that. We just need to revisit it, check in with where are we here, where do we want to be, what needs to shift. That's what we are intending to use the plan for. We have engaged community leaders, as Esther mentioned. All of you have been involved in this process. We greatly appreciate the time and effort many of you have put into the process so far. And we want to talk a little bit about what implementation could look like. So we have in the plan what's called an implementation guide. And that guide organizes the goals and strategies that we discussed into easy to use reference tables. They're ranked by priority, high, medium, and low. And these were ranked primarily by the identified stakeholders who would take the lead in implementing the goals and strategies.
I would add also influenced by the
And yes, that's correct. So you'll see in the implementation guide, which I believe reminder slide 30, just snapshot from that to orient you to that. Again, this is flexible, and we acknowledge that not every strategy may be here, right? Like there's lots of things we can even envision now. They're thinking creatively about how to do these things in ways that I, like my brain, can't even imagine. So we need to ensure that we can be adaptable. What we are committed to as a department is to regularly report to the public on the goals and progress toward the plan's goals. So we will continue to communicate with our contact list, social media, and through a tracking format on our website that will be up. We will convene the department leads who are identified in the implementation guide to meet quarterly, that's what we're envisioning, to review the progress on the plan. And we do envision convening an implementation steering committee or working group to be determined, but that will provide guidance on implementation. I will note that a very important piece of implementation is going to be identifying trackable, measurable, smart goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant in time bound metrics, things we can measure to understand if we are making progress toward the goals of the plan. So that will get even more specific than the strategies that are there. The other, and I'm moving on to slide 32, really important part of the plan, as I mentioned already, is the zoning overhaul. And of course, city plan, as the department that oversees zoning for the city, will play a really important role in ensuring that those goals and strategies that have implications for our zoning ordinance are incorporated into a broader zoning overhaul. For reference, New Haven zoning code has not been revised comprehensively since 1962. And looking back at those documents, it's very clear that our values and strategies as a city and the way we wanted to develop were very different than they are now. At that time, we really wanted to bring in people from the suburbs to come into downtown and spend their money and then leave. And so we built a lot of parking lots and highways through our city that we understand has done a lot of damage to our neighborhoods. So we are really completely re-envisioning the zoning to better align with the vision and values that we've identified in the plan. Because, like I said, there are elements of our zoning ordinance that are actually antithetical to what we now are working towards. And so we want to make it easier to build affordable housing for people to access the kinds of jobs that we're providing in the city, and to build community resilience. So as Esther mentioned, strategies in the plan that are related to zoning are marked with this little book icon. We also have a section of the plan that pulls those together. And we will, with Edward's support, now that we have a very capable new director of zoning, be starting that process over the next endeavor. There will be some smaller items that will come before the board of Aldermen in the next year, that will be items that we can do to the existing zoning ordinance that won't be very significant in nature, but more procedural, so we can lay the groundwork for a more comprehensive overhaul. So I will move on to the next slide. Just review our next steps and where we are again. Let's zoom out to talk a little bit more about our adoption timeline. So as we mentioned, June 6th, the plan was posted to the public for review. We had that initial public hearing at the City Planning Commission, made those revisions that are also in your folder. We are now at the green dot August 20th. What's coming next? So we will amend the plan in response to any comments from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, from the South Central Regional Governments, the Board of Alders, the public. There will be a round of revisions. And then October, the Board of Alders will provide the first reading of the plan. Sometime between October 8th and November 18th, the City Planning Commission will open the public hearing to adopt the plan, and we're the entity that needs to do that. So we're wrapping up here. We, like I said, hope that we will be on board for the next steps of the plan process, which is implementation. And I really do hope we see this not as a box checking document, not as something performative, but as a tool for getting to where you want to be sitting, representatives of neighborhoods, of residents, that you're using this as a way to implement the goals that is most important. Collaboration is going to be a big piece of that, and I was remiss in not thanking Esther for her amazing leadership and vision. And while this really represents the vision and values of the entire city, it would not have happened if Esther hadn't been there for almost every one of these engagement sessions. Thank you. I'm so honored to work with such amazing staff. I'm very thankful for Sana and our community navigators and others for all the work that we've done, and very hopeful for the work that's happening at Jewel. So thank you to all my colleagues, and we would like to hear your questions.
Do we accomplish all the plans for Vision 2025? If not,
that is an excellent question. Yes, and we, I won't say yes, we have accomplished everything. We have not accomplished everything, but we did an extra benchmarking exercise to understand where we are, all of the goals that were identified in Vision 2025, and that, we'll talk a little bit about that, Esther. She has a copy for you.
Yeah, I mean, there were 236 like little goals or individual goals in that plan. And what we discovered is that the city initiated them, they're ongoing, or they were completed, a majority. In some cases, priorities shifted, or funding that was anticipated for something, didn't come through. And we also found that a lot of the goals did not have that smart metrics that Laura spoke about earlier. And so if the goal is install iris whales, like well, how many and in what period of time, right? And so in some, it was challenging to fully benchmark all of the goals because they didn't have targets associated with them. But I think what we found was like, we made a lot of progress. So,
Thank you.
I think my question would be is, so as you stated, we're moving along, here we are, August, October, you're talking about the plan. How will the information be provided once again to the residents and the public? When you mention, response to comments received, once you get it from you and everybody else, you also mentioned that you would be sending it to the public. Once again,
So we used our Vision 2034 website as a conduit for making all these documents publicly available. When it's still before the Board of Alders, of course, any changes will go to the Board of Alders and be available in Lifestar. We also have created a very large contact to communicate directly with the public who have an interest in the plan.
yeah.
Right now. So all of those means we disseminate the most recent version. And the website is a little bit more intuitive than obtaining the Star.
I would just add, like, I don't think we're anticipating significant revisions because the process was so thorough. I think if an outside agency like came back with something that was more significant, we would want to workshop that with residents, with the Board of Alders, with city staff, so that everybody was aware of what changes were being.
And I mentioned this, that the plan is not set in stone, so we would continue to keep contact with citizens.
So it's not set in stone in that it's intended to be adaptable. Once it's adopted, it is our plan that we will use. And that's the plan we will reference. So it's not intended to be changed without public input, but it is intended to be reviewed, revised. We should be doing that benchmarking activity annually instead of every 2 years to see where we're at. Where do we need to change focus? Where do we need to add resources, shift resources? And I think, you all as leaders of the city can use that as a guide to understand where should we be allocating more or less of our staff resources, funding resources, to ensure that these goals are met based on the priorities.
And there is a potential for a formal amendment process that would go through the Board of Alders and City Planning Commission. 5 years in, there's something significant that needs to change. Together we could do that.
In fact, we've done that. We added the downtown plan, we added the overall responsible growth plan to the plan of conservation and development.
Information.
So in response to examine, how would you say turnout is in residents really spoken out on this plan?
I would say the process that Esther described, where we were intentionally engaging the public, we got tremendous turnout and more than expected. I'd say like the procedural meetings are not like these types of meetings, might not be the meetings that feel most engaged in, but we really used an intentional process in a lot of those talks to ensure there were visual ways to engage in providing feedback. Not everyone likes to speak in public. So, small group discussions, uh, physical tools to kind of like neighborhood design. We had a lot of different ways to engage.
Engagement, management team.
So we did outreach to all of the management teams and opportunity them. I would say there was universal uptake of that offer.
I went to a number of team management team meetings and had really great conversations there, and then also definitely saw folks who are leaders or participants in their teams, who came out to our events for sure.
Conversation with, you know, that. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you for all your hard work. I just have a question. Our colleague Alder Smith wrote the grant for the reconnecting I-91.
Yes.
How do these two?
Yeah, very much aligned. If you look at the future land use map, I would say, well, there's a few things. The goals that are identified in Move Together and several chapters.
Economic opportunity.
Yeah, there's economic opportunity for all overlap with the goals. Also, received $2 million grant from federal DOT that is also very much all this work. So these are all working towards some of the goals, even though we haven't adopted the plan yet, really envisioning some of what the next steps might be for able to implement those. You'll also see that in the future lands map, where we are re-envisioning these industrial spaces. We can't take the highway down. We can make the area under the highways accessible, safer, but even, aesthetically enjoyable for residents to be in. And then $1 million grant received from DOT that was to address safety issues with our ramps.
As someone who has an underpass that becomes problematic from time to time, that was a great question. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one question. I got a comment too, but I'll get to that second. The way you all set this up with the different sections and stuff is absolutely great. I want to throw that out there now. But when we're looking at the housing section, did you get a lot of input about the goals with accessible dwelling units like you?
With regard to the proposed ordinance, or just in general?
Both. Like, what was your feeling?
Is it exactly what the comments were specifically on ADUs? I'd say generally, that's a goal that's identified in the plan.
I would just, so we have a whole workshop that's dedicated to housing, and there's a lot of excitement in the room about just like a diversity of housing typologies and like embracing that New Haven has lots of different types of buildings and lots of different types of architecture, and like excitement for like smaller dwelling units as well as larger construction. In that workshop.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks so much for having us, and I'm excited to be here first time to be such a this meeting. As I said, my name is Parashat Kanjabi. I'm a refugee, a mother, living here in New Haven, having houses here. Came here with one small suitcase, and now have a family. Tomorrow is my daughter's birthday. I'm just going to like to answer some of your questions that you asked ladies. They're working so hard. I really appreciate it. When they invited me to join in this process, I was I had a lot of questions. You know where to start, where it's gonna end. It was like question for myself. I was thinking how to ask others. As soon as I get engaged and learn, I see this is like me putting me in a place that I have to do 10 years for my next generation, my kids. I start looking door to door, community to community, event to event, even different. One morning meeting people that yes, talking with them, professional. In the evening, be in the park, working, talking with the community members who are from all over and have a different idea, different mindset. They were like open to talk with me compared maybe talking with you directly and tell you what they want. Sometimes like they call me a sister, friend, and tell me what's happening. Try to put all of that information on this package that you see. It's full of love, data. Um, we, I wish you were there and see that. We have a really rich family in New Haven, rich of education, goals, vision. They really want to see the changes. And this is not just something we created, this society created, and give them energy to do this movement and have a better life is excellent. In some of the city, you not may not see that. This energy that you have is valuable. I think we should value this energy, invite them to such a discussion, and ask them directly what they want. One of the things about housing, one elder mentioned to me, I wish I could do that. If there is a plan or grant or funding for the families, they can have a small unit at their house. They can rent it or they can just give it to some families. Then we have a less homeless. They want to do something for the community and they are looking for plans. I don't want to get your time at this evening, but this is what I see. We are very lucky to have very rare and very nice community that we have. The newcomer refugee immigrant like myself, or the people who are here for 7 generations. They're all motivated, they love New Haven, and they want to create a better society. Yes, that's all I want to share with you.
We appreciate that. Alder Edwards?
I appreciate it. No further questions from me at this time.
Well, I'm going to say, we appreciate what you just said. Several meetings, and it sounds like you went out to different areas of the city and you heard from many different people. You heard from many youth as well, so we've encompassed seniors, adults, adults, folks that are in the city studying. It's really appreciated what you just said because you just put it together. So, yeah. Other questions, comments? from colleagues?
And reiterate that you have done a good job. Good. Thank you for my hard work that you've done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ernest. We appreciate you all. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Good to meet you.
So at this time, we're going to ask anyone, anyone wishing to speak on this item to come forward. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
There's nobody on the list.
No, listen.
No, listen.
Whoever wants to come up.
Again, if there's anyone from the public wishing to come to speak, table, and once you get settled, come on over. Come right over. We'll ask for your name and address for the record, and thank you for coming.
My name is
Sydney Williams Brown, 254 LT Gressel Boulevard. I was also one of the community navigators while in the outreach Vision 2034 to piggyback on what the comments that Esther and Laura made, as well as FG. The engagement process, to answer the question about where the engagement came from, one of our particular goals was to reach out to individuals in atypical settings. That way we could get a broader sense of the community's wants and needs, and not not just engage with those who typically show up at the meetings. So while we make this at community management meetings, we're also community action gatherings, popular places for folks to gather, as well as those who are doing a variety of grassroots on the ground work. So one of the particular things that I was interested in is future planning and visioning. And so in the process right now, I'm putting together what would be considered, I guess, a pitch. But for the owners of the board, I think it's 29 and 27 against each other, using different methods to get vision, an idea of what using myself and my husband. Myself and my husband, Mike, we own Third Space and Lounge in the Westville Hills area around one. And we use gaming as a vehicle for connection. Specifically, using the game The Sims, if you're familiar. It's a lot of people like to use for store stuff, but also for building and envisioning. So currently, I'm using that as a vehicle to take some of the known blighted and realized things in the city, build them in the game as they are, and then make those available to the community. Tool them. Time in the sky and all the money cheats that you could possibly use. So those are becoming an option in the game, but allow us to use that format to really envision and propose new uses. And then as the zoning reforms happen and look at new ways to use the land we have and the land that we utilize, some of the feedback was a desire for mixed use neighborhoods that were easily walkable, that made amenities and things easily accessible. So I think that this process of getting the public's feedback of outreach and engagement will get us a more clear vision of what's wanted, as you'll see, I think, in the plan. It's very extensive, but I think it does a good job of highlighting some of the concerns. And I think that with the community navigators, leaders in the community, that we'll be able to use new methods to plan. And I think that's something that we see one from the document as a whole, community navigators can help facilitate. Any questions?
What did you say? What's your business?
Third Space Arcade Lounge.
Where is that?
It's on Lake Street. Thank you. Any other? Yes. Any other? Join us. Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Tegan Engel. My address is 376 Central Avenue. I wasn't planning to speak, but I was on the advisory team for the plan, and I just want to reinforce everything that's been said and appreciate all the questions you asked. But I've been involved in 2 other participatory planning processes in the city over the past 15 years or so, and so I was just really impressed by the integrity with which Esther held this process, and even through it when, oh, this isn't working, and we would have conversations about, okay, well, let's try something else, and the testimony that was just given about how to meet people in not the average places where they would be. I also appreciate that there were a lot of events that happened at our library, so that we were like went to a lot of, good hubs, community hubs of our neighborhoods. And that they used different tools to try to connect with people, so that not everything was about talking publicly and things like that. And also, most importantly, just the harms that zoning have done in our city, which are very important. And then trying to be very intentional about how to create zoning policies that are building communities that are human centered, that, making sure that we have affordable housing, that we get around cars, like all the different things that we all are hoping for communities, and how zoning and the built environment, and then all the different integration of different services and approaches that need to happen to make that possible. And that was what their goal was, and I feel all of the input from the city, from residents, and from different departments and from folks who tried to map that out. So just wanted to say I felt good about the integrity that they held, and that they really tried to, I felt like I did read the whole plan and give feedback on it. And I just think that they achieved that. And now we have to do the hard work of, well, once you approve it and any amendments are made, to do the hard work of implementing it. So thank you.
From everyone, from the many different places that you went to, you felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, that people were heard and seen, and that the comments that the community made were taken to heart on what they would like to see in the implementation moving forward in the neighborhood for the future.
Yeah, very much. It wasn't like a just say yes kind of meeting where you were being talked at. It was very interactive. Like, what would you like to see in your neighborhood, and how is transportation working, or what do you need from housing? And so it was, one thing was like people were like putting blocks in different places and drawing things and writing things on what neighborhood is, what it could be. And then all of that information was then documented and then compiled to create these applications. So it's not just like one person said, we want this thing. It was that, and I think a lot of the meetings, and we would hear similar themes, which is expected. And so it was like compiling all those different comments to try to get it to synthesize what we heard from many different people around the city. But it wasn't like they came in with, here's our proposal. Do you say yes or no? It was really, what do you want to see? What do you think the city could be better, and serve you and your community, and trying to capture them.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Good to see.
Thank you for being at all these meetings.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item? Vice Chair.
Two times.
Is there anyone else? Again, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? For the final time, is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Madam Chair,
Mr.
I
Vice Chair.
move that we end the portion.
Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, given the facts, of course, that we accept and adopt this resolution, the new report proposals approving the Vision 2034 as planned. Second.
The item has seconded. Alder Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am in agreement with Alder Douglas on moving this forward. I am happy with how the process has gone with making sure there is lots of public input. However, I would like to, through you, I'm going to say through you, Madam Chair, with the next step coming, make sure that we're doing as this of us. We received many email notices fill this out, send it to her. Make sure you're sharing it with your community members. I feel like we have to make sure we're sharing it, to get more activity and more participants. Because in a city as big as this, we're never gonna, numbers are never gonna be what we want. But out of the population, to get 1,600 input, yeah, my goal is to get more. Just to make sure people are paying attention to what we're trying to do in the city. And that they're actually giving input, not based on here, what they heard the plan was and what activities was. But they're looking at this and they're giving feedback, or they're coming to testify or city testimony. So I am in agreement with, but I just feel like we need to do more to make sure we get more participation. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, is there possibly a way that we do this, to have this resolution benchmarked and revisited every year to make sure that we're doing what we say we're going to be doing? Through the chair.
Yeah, or we could, yes. I believe through having the benchmark it every year would be better served that we can meet with city plan and do a workshop really to see where we are and how we can better service.
That's reasonable.
Okay. So
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. All right, sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Information to reach out for our. Any comments? Okay. Take a look. Decision has been made to move this forward to the board. Yep. All in favor of moving this forward to the board?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are going to move this forward to the board for adoption.
Madam Chair,
Alder Edwards,
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you.